Ben wiped the last streak of polish from the smooth, shining floor of the Galactic Union Station. The lights above reflected in the surface, making it look like the floor was made of liquid silver. Ben's hands were tired, but he liked the quiet moments after the big events. He was a janitor, a single dad, and the only human in the entire station who had no official role in diplomacy or politics. Most days he went unnoticed, and that was exactly how he liked it. The station was enormous. Towering pillars of metal and crystal held up the high ceiling. Alien banners of every color and shape hung from the walls. Some banners moved slowly, alive with tiny creatures that wriggled and changed colors. Ships of every size and shape floated outside the tall glass windows, docking and undocking while creatures of many kinds walked along the platforms. Some had 4 legs, some had 6, some floated in the air. Ben had learned to smile politely and step aside. Humans were unusual in the galaxy. They were fragile, but they were also clever, and some of the aliens respected that, as Ben was finishing his work. The tall doors at the end of the hall hissed and slid open. He looked up, ready to step aside for the next official group. But what entered was not a delegation or a politician. It was Vera, the alien leader. She was not very tall, but her presence was commanding. Her skin shimmered like liquid gold, and her eyes were deep pools of light. Normally, she was calm, careful, and perfectly controlled. Everyone in the station feared and admired her at the same time. Vera walked slowly toward Ben. Her steps made a soft humming sound. Ben stopped in surprise. He had never been close to an alien leader before. His hands, still holding the mop, shook slightly. "Human," she said. Her voice was soft but carried weight. Every word seemed to echo in the hall. "I need your help." Ben swallowed. "Me, ma'am?" he asked. "I am just a janitor. I clean, that's all." "I don't." Vera raised her hand and he stopped. Her expression was strange. It was not anger. It was almost desperation. "Pretend you love me," she said, looking directly at him. "For 10 minutes. Ben blinked. He did not understand. Pretend love. Vora's eyes flickered with something like fear. "It is complicated. My rivals are watching. If they see me as alone, weak, or unprotected, my empire will be attacked. They will take everything I have. But if they see me connected, if they believe someone cares for me, then I gain protection. I cannot do this alone. You are the only one who can help." He was a single dad, not a diplomat, not a spy, not a hero. But looking at Vera, he realized that she was telling the truth. Her face, normally so controlled, betrayed fear. And in that fear, he saw something he understood. A parent's fear, a leader's fear, someone trying to protect something they loved. "I don't know if I can," he said. His voice was small. "You will try," Vera said. "I do not ask for more. 10 minutes. Nothing else." Ben looked around. The hall was empty, except for them. The cleaning carts, the shining floor, the banners fluttering slightly in the airflow, all seemed still. He nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. Vera held out her hand. Ben hesitated for a moment, and then took it. Her skin was smooth and warm, unlike anything he had ever felt. She held his hand lightly, but firmly. They stood together in silence. 10 minutes. That was all she asked, but those 10 minutes were more than enough to change everything. Ben tried to smile. "So, what do I do?" he asked. "Talk to me," Vera said. "Say kind things. Pretend you care. Nothing complicated. Just human words. Let them see that I am not alone." Ben nodded again. He had never been in front of a crowd like this, but he had comforted his daughter countless times. That was all he needed. He took a deep breath. "You are strong," he said. "You are brave. You are not alone. Someone cares for you. You are not weak. You are—" He stopped and realized he was speaking naturally, not pretending. He was saying what he believed. Vora's eyes widened. Something in her sensors seemed to spike. She was not used to this. Not at all. No alien had ever said words like that to her. She had been trained to listen to flattery, to respond to strategy, to fear, but never to kindness that came from honesty. For Ben, it was easy. He thought of his daughter, how she looked at him after a bad day at school, how she trusted him no matter what. This was similar. Vera needed trust, and he could give it, even if it was only for 10 minutes. He spoke again, softly. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to hide. You just need to be yourself. That is enough. The hum of the station seemed quieter. The banners fluttered less. Even the distant sounds of docking ships seemed to pause. Ben did not notice. He was focused on the alien before him. Vora's hand trembled slightly. Her golden skin flickered, as if the light inside her was reacting to the words. Ben realized that this was working. The moment was strange, yes, but it was real. And real things were stronger than any trick or plan. After a few minutes, Ben noticed something remarkable. Sensors along the walls, usually hidden, lit up faintly. They measured signals he did not understand, but the readings made it clear that someone else was observing. The Council of Alien Leaders was watching. They were expecting a show, perhaps a fake display of affection, but what they were seeing instead was something new. Something human. Something sincere. Vera spoke quietly. They will see it, won't they? Yes, Ben said. They will see that someone cares. That is all you need. For a moment, Vera allowed herself to relax. She leaned slightly closer. Her expression softened, and her usual careful control slipped. Ben felt the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders, but he also felt a strange calm. He was doing what he could. That was enough. When 10 minutes passed, the lights on the sensors dimmed. Vera let go of his hand. You did it, she said softly. I do not know how, but you did it. Oh, Ben smiled faintly. I just said what I felt, he said. You are not alone. That is all, Vera nodded. You saved me. You do not even know how much you saved me. Ben felt a strange pride. He was just a janitor, a human from a small planet. But he had done something no one else could. He had used something stronger than power or technology. He had used honesty, care, and human courage. As Vera left, she looked back once and whispered, "Thank you, Ben." The hall looked the same, shining and bright, but he felt different. Something had changed. The galaxy had shifted, and he, a single dad janitor, played a part in it. No one else in the station understood what had happened. The council, the rivals, the alien dignitaries, all would talk about the 10 minutes. But Ben knew the truth. The truth was simple. Human care was stronger than fear. Human honesty was stronger than power. And sometimes, even a single human could change the course of a galaxy. That night, as Ben cleaned the last room and prepared to rest, he thought of his daughter. She would never know the role he played today, but that was fine. Humans often did not seek recognition. They acted because it was right, not because it was praised. For the first time in a long while, Ben smiled. He was tired, yes, but proud. He had faced an alien leader, a galaxy's worth of observers, and a threat to an entire empire. And he had done it with the simplest tools he had, honesty and kindness. The station hummed softly as he pushed, his cleaning cart through the empty halls. Outside, the stars shone brightly, as if applauding in silence. Ben knew that his life would never be the same again, but that was okay. Humans could face change. Humans could adapt. And humans, sometimes, could do what no one else could. The next day would bring new challenges, new aliens, new politics, and new threats. But Ben did not worry. He had learned something powerful, and the galaxy would learn it too, slowly but surely. Human strength was not in weapons or ships. Human strength was in courage, care, and honesty. And Ben had shown it in 10 minutes that changed everything. The next morning, Ben arrived at the Galactic Union station earlier than usual. His hands still smelled faintly of polish, but his mind was alive with thoughts. The previous night had changed something inside him. He had never imagined that 10 minutes could carry such power. Yet, Vora's simple request and his own honesty had altered the perception of a galaxy. as he pushed his cleaning cart along the grand corridors. He noticed whispers among the alien staff. Some pointed at him, others stopped and stared. Ben smiled faintly and nodded politely. He was used to being ignored. Being noticed was new, and it made him slightly uncomfortable. Vora's office, a room of crystal walls and flowing light, appeared ahead. Ben did not usually enter this space. Only diplomats, generals, and special envoys were allowed. Today, however, Vera had sent a small note through a hovering messenger. It read simply, "Meet me. There's much to discuss." He paused for a moment, wondering if he should refuse. But he knew refusal was not polite. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. Vura was already there, sitting in a chair that seemed to float above the ground. Her golden skin reflected the light in waves, and her eyes held a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. She gestured to a small seat. "Sit," she said. "We have much to talk about." Ben obeyed, resting his tired arms on his knees. "You wanted to see me?" he asked cautiously. "Yes," Vera replied. "The council and the rivals witnessed your actions. The readings show that your words affected them. You may not understand the power you used, but the galaxy does." Ben frowned. "Power. I just spoke honestly. That is all." Vera tilted her head. "That is exactly the point. No alien leader has ever displayed power in this way. The galaxy expects fear, technology, or manipulation. Your humanity, your honesty, and kindness shook them. They are not used to it. They fear it in a way." Ben felt a shiver. Fear from aliens. He had never thought of himself as intimidating. He was a janitor, a simple human who cleaned floors and mopped spills. And yet somehow he had made an entire council pause. "They will be cautious now," Vera continued. "Your 10 minutes made them rethink their strategies. My rivals are reconsidering alliances. Your actions may have prevented a war." Ben shook his head. "I never wanted to prevent a war. I just wanted to help. I only did what felt right." "That is why it worked," Vera said softly. "They expect false games. They expect calculations. But you did not calculate anything. You acted from truth. That is stronger than any weapon, faster than any ship. They cannot measure it, and it terrifies them." Ben leaned back. He could not deny it. He had acted without thought of reward or recognition. He had acted because it was the right thing to do. The idea that this simple act could change political outcomes was staggering. Vera stood and moved toward a small window. Looking out at the docking platforms, "You are human," she said. "You do not understand politics or diplomacy. Yet in 10 minutes, you displayed a strength greater than anything we use in the council. How can this be?" Ben shrugged. "Humans care. We have survived by caring, protecting each other, trusting each other. It is not about weapons or rules. It is about doing what is right, even when no one watches." Vera turned to him, a faint smile crossing her face. "It is simple, yet impossible for most of us to understand. Perhaps that is why your species endures. Perhaps that is why humans are remarkable." Ben felt a warm pride. He was still a janitor, still a single dad, still far from the life of a hero. And yet, for the first time, he realized that his ordinary actions had extraordinary power. The conversation was interrupted by a soft hum. A small floating device approached Ben. It displayed messages and glowing symbols that only he could understand. One message read, "Alien scholars request your presence. They wish to study your..." Ben frowned. "Study me? Why?" Vera explained, "They wish to understand how your 10 minutes affected the council. They do not comprehend the human mind. They wish to observe, to measure, to learn. Perhaps they will adopt some of your ways. Perhaps not. But they are curious." Ben sighed. "I am not a teacher. I am not a diplomat. I am a janitor. I do not belong in a study or a lab. You belong where you are," Vera said. "And sometimes where you are is exactly where you are needed. I will ensure your tasks remain manageable. You will not be forced into something you cannot do. But the galaxy may learn from you. Ben nodded slowly. He did not fully understand, but he trusted Vura. She had asked for 10 minutes, and it had changed everything. Perhaps he could offer a little more. Over the next hours, scholars of many species approached him. They asked questions in languages he barely recognized. They used sensors to measure his heart rate, his expressions, the way he moved, even the tone of his voice. Ben answered simply, honestly, and politely. He explained the way he thought about others, the way he comforted his daughter, the way he treated strangers. The aliens listened. Some took notes. Some simply stared, bewildered. None of them had experienced honesty like this. None of them had seen kindness without a hidden motive. Ben realized that humans, in their simplicity, could offer something the galaxy had never known: the power of truth and care. Vera returned at the end of the day. She watched Ben from the doorway as he quietly pushed his cleaning cart. She did not speak at first, simply observing. Then she came closer and said, "Your presence has changed many minds today. Your simple acts have been recorded and analyzed. You may not understand it, but you have become a symbol. A human symbol." Ben smiled faintly. "I am just Ben. I clean floors. I take care of my daughter. That is all I can do." "But it is enough," Vera said firmly. "It is always enough. Sometimes the smallest actions carry the greatest weight." "You taught us that today." Ben felt a strange warmth. Recognition from a leader was not something he sought, but seeing the effect of his honesty on Vera and the observers made him realize that humans could truly impact the galaxy. Days passed, and the story of the 10-minute humans spread across the station. Aliens told others about the janitor who had spoken honestly to the leader. Some were skeptical, some were curious, some were inspired. Ben kept doing his work quietly, pushing carts, polishing floors, and cleaning halls. But he was no longer invisible. Eyes followed him, whispers followed him, and even the smallest gestures of kindness he offered were noticed. One afternoon, while cleaning near a diplomatic meeting room, Ben overheard two aliens discussing him. "He speaks the words of truth," one said. "I do not understand how it works. It is not science or skill. It is something else," said the other. "It is human. I have never seen anything like it. Perhaps this is why humans endure. Perhaps this is why they survive where others fail." Ben smiled quietly. He did not interrupt. Humans often did not need praise. Their actions spoke louder than words. And in this case, the galaxy was listening. That evening, Vera summoned him again. This time, it was not for an urgent task. It was for a conversation. They spoke quietly in her office, discussing life, the responsibilities of leadership, and the strange power of kindness. Vera admitted she had learned something she never expected. She had learned that strength was not only in technology or armies. Strength could come from truth, empathy, and courage. Ben listened. Sharing stories of Earth, of his daughter, of ordinary humans who faced extraordinary challenges with patience and care. Vera absorbed every word, fascinated by the simplicity and depth of his perspective. By the time Ben left her office, he understood that his life had shifted. He was no longer just a janitor. He was a human, a representative of Earth in a galaxy that had never fully understood his kind, and he carried a message that even the smallest acts of honesty and care could ripple across worlds, changing minds and hearts in ways no weapon ever could. Outside, the stars shone brighter than ever. Ships of all sizes moved across the docking platforms. Aliens of all species passed him, some bowing, some nodding, some whispering stories to one another. Ben smiled. He was still tired, still human, still ordinary in many ways. But he was also extraordinary. He had changed the perception of an empire with nothing more than his heart. That night, as he returned to his small quarters, Ben reflected on the events. 10 minutes. That was all it had taken to alter the balance of power, to show a species something they had never seen, to remind them that strength came in many forms. And Ben realized that the galaxy was not finished learning. It had only begun to see what humans could do. Ben looked at the stars outside his window, thinking of his daughter asleep in her small bed. He smiled again. Humans survived not because they were the strongest, but because they were capable of care, courage, and truth. And sometimes, just sometimes, those qualities were enough to move the universe. He went to sleep, tired but proud, ready for whatever the next day would bring. The galaxy had learned a lesson, and Ben had been its teacher, without even trying. The morning sun of the Galactic Union Station rose slowly over the docking platforms, casting long golden beams across the shining hallways. Ships from countless worlds drifted in and out, leaving trails of light behind them. For most beings, it was another ordinary day in the busy heart of the galaxy. For Ben, it was anything but ordinary. After his 10-minute encounter with Vera, Ben had become a figure of quiet fascination. Even though he returned to his janitor duties, aliens stopped to watch him, whispered about him, and sometimes followed him. Curious about the human who had displayed an extraordinary strength without weapons, ships, or armies. Ben did not like the attention, but he handled it with patience. He had cleaned spaces far more crowded and chaotic than this. He knew that rushing, panicking, or complaining did not help. Vera had warned him that others were talking. "They do not fully understand what you did," she had said the day before. "Some admire it, some fear it, some want to study it, but all are watching." And now, as he pushed his cart through the corridors, he could feel the curious stares. Some were subtle, some obvious, but he noticed every one. It reminded him of the first time his daughter had asked him to help with a school project. He had been nervous then, unsure of his own ability. This was different. The stakes were larger, but the principle was the same. Stay calm, stay honest, stay true. The first interruption came unexpectedly. A small group of scholars from the Trivian cluster, a species known for their intelligence and analytical minds, approached him. They floated slightly above the ground, their translucent bodies reflecting light like moving prisms. "Human," one of them said, its voice soft and musical. "May we study your actions? We wish to understand the mechanics of your interaction with the alien leader, Vera." Ben blinked. "Study me. I just said what I felt. That is all." "Yes," another said, "but your feelings are unprecedented in effect. Our sensors indicate that your words triggered responses in multiple species. We do not understand why. Perhaps it is biological. Perhaps it is something else. We wish to learn." Ben sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I am not a teacher. I am not a diplomat. I am a janitor. Clean. That is all I do." The Trivians exchanged soft hums, a sound that meant confusion in their language. One floated closer. "Even so, your method must be documented. Your honesty and simplicity have consequences that echo across the council. We must record it. Will you allow this?" Ben considered it. He did not like being the center of attention, but he understood the importance. If the galaxy could learn that care, honesty, and courage were stronger than fear and manipulation, perhaps fewer conflicts would follow. He nodded. "Okay," he said. "I will answer questions, but I cannot promise anything fancy." And so, the study began. The Trivians asked simple questions. How did he think about Vera? How did he speak with her? How did he control his fear when the council observed them? Ben answered honestly, recalling the 10 minutes in detail. He explained that he had thought only about what was right, not about impressing anyone. He had thought of his daughter and of how humans survived by trusting one another and helping each other without expecting reward, as the Trivians recorded. Others began to gather. Alien scholars from other systems, diplomats, and even low-ranking officials arrived to observe. Some whispered among themselves. Some simply watched in silence. It was unusual for aliens to treat honesty as a topic of study. Most studied technology, strategy, or combat. But here, the subject was human emotion, and it held more fascination than anything else in the station. Vera arrived mid-morning, observing the group around Ben. She smiled faintly. "You are patient," she said softly. "You do not complain. You do not seek reward. You simply answer honestly. That is the quality that made the council hesitate. That is why they could not resist your words." I just told the truth, he said. I said what I felt. That is all humans can do. We survive by caring for each other and speaking honestly. Vera studied him, and for a moment her usual control slipped. You are remarkable, she whispered. You are small, and yet your impact is larger than armies. It is unlike anything we know. The day passed slowly. Questions, observations, and subtle discussions continued. Aliens attempted to measure his reactions, but Ben remained calm. He realized that the key was simplicity. Speak honestly. Act naturally. Do not overthink. That was the way humans endured challenges. By my mid-afternoon, whispers had spread beyond the station. Communications networks carried the story to distant systems. The 10-minute human became a phrase repeated in many languages. In some places, it was spoken with admiration. In others, with suspicion. But everywhere it sparked discussion. How could a single human, a janitor from a small planet, influence an alien leader and shift the balance of perception among dozens of species? Ben returned to his quarters briefly, exhausted. Cleaning, interacting, and being observed continuously was tiring. He sat by the window, looking out at the stars and docking platforms. Ships moved in patterns he could never fully understand. Aliens of every form walked and floated past him. He realized that in this vast galaxy, humans were small, fragile, and often underestimated. Yet even in fragility there was power. His thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock. Vera entered quietly. You do not rest often, she said. You take care of your duties and the observers. You carry more than anyone should. You may rest. Ben shook his head. I have work to do. Floors do not clean themselves. Vera smiled faintly. Perhaps. But sometimes the work of the heart is more important than the work of the hands. You showed us today that strength comes from caring, not just action. You have changed many minds. You have shown a path. Ben thought about her words. He had acted without expecting reward, without thinking about consequences, and yet the galaxy had taken notice. He realized that this was the way humans differed from many alien species. Humans did not calculate power in every word. They did not measure the impact of kindness. They acted, and sometimes, the ripple of that action reached far beyond expectation. Over the next few days, Ben continued his duties, but he also began teaching small lessons to those willing to listen. He spoke simply, answering questions about human behavior, about honesty, about trust. Aliens who had once believed humans were weak now found themselves reconsidering their assumptions. His words did not command armies. They did not control technology. Yet they carried influence stronger than most weapons could offer. Vora observed quietly, fascinated. She had learned from him as much as anyone else. Strength was not always force. Power did not always come from control. Sometimes the smallest and simplest acts, a kind word, a gesture of honesty, could ripple across worlds, shifting perception and altering plans. One afternoon, a high-ranking diplomat approached Ben. The diplomat, a four-armed creature with bright emerald skin, bowed slightly. Human, may I speak with you? Ben nodded. Of course. I wish to understand your species, the diplomat said. How can a species so small influence the galaxy? How can a single individual shift the perception of leaders and empires? Ben thought carefully. We survive because we care, he said finally. We speak honestly. We protect each other without expecting reward. We face challenges even when fear is strong. That is how humans endure. That is how I could help Vera. Not because I am strong or clever, but because I care and I speak honestly. The diplomat tilted its head, considering his words. It is unfamiliar. We are not trained to value honesty in this way, but perhaps we should reconsider. Ben nodded. It is not complicated. It is just human. News of the 10-minute human spread further. Across many worlds, stories circulated of the human janitor who had saved an alien leader without a weapon or fleet. Scholars debated, politicians whispered, and even rivals paused to reconsider. They did not fully understand him, but they knew that something remarkable had occurred by the end of the week. Ben returned to his quarters, exhausted but fulfilled. The observation and study were complete for now, but he sensed that the ripple of his actions would continue. Aliens who had encountered him would speak of him for years. Perhaps they would adopt some human practices. Perhaps they would not. But one thing was certain: humans, in their simplicity, had a strength the galaxy could not ignore. As he looked at the stars, Ben reflected on the past days. 10 minutes had begun it all. 10 minutes of honesty, of kindness, and of courage. From that small act, the galaxy had learned something new. He realized that even ordinary humans, those who cleaned floors and cared for their families, could leave an impact far greater than they imagined. Vera appeared again that evening, her golden skin glimmering softly. "You have changed much," she said. "Not only did you protect me, but you have begun to influence our species as well. Your actions will be remembered." Ben shook his head. "I did nothing special. I just acted honestly. Yet that is extraordinary," Vera replied. "You remind us that true strength is not measured in force or technology, but in heart. Perhaps one day more humans will teach the galaxy the same lesson." Ben smiled quietly. He had no desire for fame or recognition. He only wished to do what was right. But now he understood that even small acts, performed with sincerity, could echo across the stars and change the course of events. The Galactic Union Station was unusually quiet that morning. Even the distant hum of docking ships seemed subdued. Ben pushed his cleaning cart down the wide corridor, feeling the weight of recent days pressing on him. He had grown used to being watched, to being whispered about. Yet today, there was a tension he had never felt before. Something was different. A group of emissaries from the Shalara Empire, one of the rival factions that had always challenged Vora's leadership, had arrived. Their presence alone caused a stir. They were taller than most species, with metallic exoskeletons and piercing silver eyes. Their movements were precise, calculated, and intimidating. Vera had summoned Ben to her office again, and this time, the situation was urgent. "They doubt me," she said softly, pacing the floor. "They claim I am being manipulated by humans. They do not trust our decisions. They demand proof that your species is not a threat." Ben frowned. "Proof? What kind of proof?" "They want to see that humans are honest, that we can trust them," Vera explained. "They will test you in front of the council. You must stand before the galaxy and show them the truth of your kind. I will support you, but the rest is up to you." Ben's heart raced. He had never been in front of the council formally. He had never been tested in such a way. He cleaned floors, not defended empires. But then he remembered the 10 minutes he had spent with Vera. That had been fear, doubt, and pressure. Yet he had spoken honestly. Perhaps now he could do the same. The council chamber was massive, circular, and filled with delegates from countless worlds. Floating platforms allowed representatives to rise and speak. Sensors lined the walls, measuring every reaction, every pulse, every subtle movement. Ben walked in, small among the towering aliens, his uniform simple and clean. The council quieted as he approached. Vera stood beside him, her golden skin glowing in the soft light. The Shalara emissaries glared, their silver eyes calculating every detail. "You stand before us, human the head," Shalara said. "Explain why your species should be trusted. Why should we believe that humans do not manipulate, deceive, or exploit us?" Ben swallowed and stepped forward. He looked around at the council, at the thousands of eyes fixed on him, at the humming sensors. Then he remembered something simple. Honesty and care were more powerful than fear or weapons. "I am just Ben," he began, his voice calm but clear. "I am a janitor. I clean floors. I take care of my daughter. That is what humans do. We survive because we care for each other. We speak honestly. We help each other without expecting reward. That is why humans endure. That is why I helped Vera. I did not think about politics, or power, or alliances. I only thought about what was right." The chamber was silent. Every species listened, some leaning closer, some frowning in confusion. The Shalara emissaries whispered among themselves. They were not used to hearing such words in a council chamber, Ben continued. You may think humans are weak. We have no armies like yours. We have no shields or technology that can rival yours. But we have courage. We have honesty. We have care. And sometimes that is stronger than anything else. That is why I can stand here and speak truthfully. That is why Vera trusted me. That is why you should not fear humans. He paused. The council remained still, as if waiting for something more. Ben thought of his daughter again. She trusted him without hesitation. That trust, simple and unconditional, was the strength he carried into this chamber. Humans do not act for power or reward, he added. We act because it is right. That is all. You may test us, you may doubt us, but if you judge us by what we do and how we act, you will see that we are not your enemy. We are capable of care, courage, and honesty. That is our strength. Vera watched him with quiet pride. Her pulse sensors, which had once measured fear, now measured confidence. The chamber seemed to shift subtly. Aliens who had been skeptical began to nod. Some whispered among themselves. The Shalara emissary's silver eyes narrowed. But even they could not deny the calm sincerity radiating from the small human before them. The head. Shalara emissary spoke again. You claim honesty and care are strength. Yet how can we measure this? Words are easy. Actions are what matter. Out. Ben nodded. He had expected this. Then watch, he said. I will not lie. I will not manipulate. I will answer any question honestly. That is the proof you seek. Not weapons. Not fleets. Just truth. You can measure my words. You can measure my heart. That is all humans have, and that is enough, the council murmured. Sensors confirmed that Ben's words matched his pulse, his expressions, and his intentions. There was no deceit, no hidden agenda. Just honesty, courage, and care. One of the alien scholars stepped forward, her voice calm. We wish to test this further. Questions will be asked. You will respond truthfully. If you deceive, the readings will show it. Are you willing? Ben nodded firmly. Yes, I am willing. Questions began. Simple at first, then more complex. They asked about alliances, motivations, fears, and strategies. Ben answered honestly, never exaggerating, never hiding. Every response was measured not by cleverness, but by truth. Hours passed. The council observed, debated, and whispered. The Shalara emissaries grew frustrated, unable to provoke lies or hesitation. Every test, every subtle attempt at manipulation failed. Ben's simple honesty held firm. Finally, Vera stepped forward. The council has witnessed the human before you. You see truth in action, not weapons, not fleets, not technology. Only honesty, courage, and care. This is the human strength. The chamber remained silent for a moment, absorbing the words. Slowly, nods began. Discussions continued, but the tide had shifted. The Shalara emissaries could no longer claim manipulation. They had tested the human. They had failed. Ben felt a quiet pride. He had done nothing extraordinary by alien standards. He had simply acted as a human would, honestly, courageously, and with care. And yet the results were extraordinary. After the council session, Vera approached him. You have done what no weapon could have done, she said softly. You have shown them a new kind of strength. You have saved not only my position, but perhaps many lives. I did what I could. That is all any human can do. We act with honesty and care. Sometimes that is enough. I did not expect recognition. I did not seek it. Vera smiled faintly. And yet, that is why it worked. Humans are unpredictable, not because of chaos, but because of truth. Others cannot anticipate it. That is why they respect it and fear it. Over the next days, the story spread further. Across the station, in the fleets outside, in distant worlds receiving communication relays, the tale of the 10-minute human and the council tests circulated. Scholars debated the results. Politicians reconsidered alliances, and the idea of human strength became a topic of serious discussion. Ben continued his duties quietly, pushing his cleaning cart, polishing floors, and maintaining the spaces no one noticed. Yet everywhere he went, eyes followed. Whispers echoed. Aliens who had doubted humans began to pause before them, considering old assumptions. He found himself teaching small lessons again, answering questions about honesty, courage, and trust. Some aliens attempted to replicate human methods, but few could capture the subtle combination of simplicity and sincerity that made Ben's actions so effective. One afternoon, Vera invited him to a small balcony overlooking the station. "You see how far your actions have reached?" she said, pointing to the docking platforms below. "Ships, fleets, and beings from across the galaxy know your story. Humans are being observed differently now, not as weak or fragile, but as beings of courage and truth. You have changed their perspective." Ben looked down at the ships and the crowds of aliens below. It was overwhelming. "I never meant to do that," he said quietly. "I just acted honestly. That is all humans can do." "And yet it is enough," Vera replied. "It is always enough. Sometimes the smallest act of courage can change the course of history." 10 minutes, one human, and the galaxy saw what strength really is. That night, as Ben returned to his quarters, he reflected on the events. He had faced scrutiny, tests, and doubt. He had stood before the most powerful beings in the galaxy and answered honestly. He had acted as a human, and that had been enough. He thought of his daughter, asleep on her small bed on Earth. She would never understand the full scale of what he had done, but she would know the principle. Act honestly, care for others, and face challenges with courage. That principle had saved a leader, changed the council, and reminded the galaxy that true strength was not always in weapons or fleets. Ben fell asleep with a quiet smile. The stars outside his window shone softly, as if acknowledging a small human who had proven that honesty and courage could ripple across worlds. The galaxy had been tested, and humanity had passed. The Galactic Union Station had never felt so alive. Beings from countless worlds moved through the corridors, their voices blending into a hum of activity that was both chaotic and beautiful. Ships of every shape and size floated near the docking platforms, casting reflections of light across the shining floors. For most, it was an ordinary day of commerce, diplomacy, and travel. For Ben, it was the day the galaxy would remember him. After the council session and the tests by the rival Shalara Empire, Ben had returned to his duties quietly, as always. He polished floors, pushed cleaning carts, and moved through the halls with a calm presence that contrasted the excitement around him. The story of the 10-minute human had spread like wildfire, sported in diplomatic meetings, debated in academic halls, and even carried across interstellar news channels. Yet Ben remained humble. He did not seek recognition. He had done what any human could do: act honestly, care for others, and face challenges with courage. Vora had asked him to meet her once more. She had sent a small glowing message, simple and concise: "Come to my office. There is something to show you." Ben walked through the wide corridors, noticing the subtle nods and greetings from aliens who recognized him now. Some still stared in disbelief that a human could influence their politics so profoundly. Others smiled, curious to see what this ordinary human might do next. Vora's office was as magnificent as ever, with flowing light and crystalline walls that reflected the colors of the galaxy outside. She was standing near the center, holding a small, silver emblem that gleamed brightly in her hands. "Ben," she said, her voice soft but firm, "you have shown the council, the rivals, and the galaxy a lesson in truth and courage. For that, you deserve recognition, not for yourself, but for your species. This emblem is the highest honor in my world. It is given to those who demonstrate the greatest courage, wisdom, and integrity. Today, you have earned it."
Oh.
Ben stared at the emblem. He had never imagined receiving anything like this. His life had always been simple. He cleaned floors, cared for his daughter, and tried to do what was right. Awards, honors, and recognition had never been part of his world. He shook his head slowly. "I do not deserve this," he said quietly. "I only acted honestly. I only did what humans do naturally. That is all." And yet Vera replied, placing the emblem gently in his hands, "That is enough. It is exactly why you deserve it. Humans do not act for recognition, and that is why their courage is so genuine. You have reminded an entire galaxy that strength comes from honesty, care, and courage, not fear or weapons. That lesson is priceless." Ben held the emblem carefully, feeling its weight and the significance it carried. For the first time, he realized that humans, in their simplicity, could leave a mark far greater than any technological marvel or powerful fleet. Their true power was in their ability to act with integrity and care, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Vera smiled. "Your actions will be remembered, Ben. They will inspire not only my species, but many others across the galaxy. You have shown that even the smallest beings can make the largest difference." Ben nodded, still quiet. He did not know how to respond fully. Words seemed inadequate for the honor and the responsibility he felt. But he understood one thing clearly. What he had done mattered, and it would matter for a long time. The day passed quickly. With more scholars and diplomats requesting to meet Ben, they asked him to share his experiences, to explain how he had influenced the council and the rival factions. Ben answered simply, honestly, and patiently. He spoke of his daughter, of the lessons humans learned from caring for each other, and of the principle that had guided him. Always act truthfully and with courage. As he spoke, many aliens began to understand. Some nodded in agreement. Some whispered among themselves, reconsidering old prejudices. A few were inspired to adopt human methods of negotiation and honesty in their own dealings. The ripple effect of his actions grew wider by the hour. Later in the evening, Bjora invited Ben to a quiet balcony overlooking the station. The stars shone brightly, and ships floated gracefully against the deep black of space. Vura looked out at the galaxy, then turned to Ben. "The galaxy has changed because of you," she said softly. "Not because of your strength in battle, not because of your technology, but because of your courage, honesty, and care. You have reminded everyone that humans are more than fragile creatures. You have shown that we can trust them, that we can learn from them, and that their hearts are strong." Asleep back on Earth, she would never fully understand the scale of what had happened. But she would understand the principle: act honestly, care for others, and face challenges with courage. That principle had saved a leader, influenced empires, and reminded the galaxy that true strength was not always measured in weapons or numbers. Vera continued. "There is one more thing, Ben. You do not have to leave this station yet. Your presence here continues to teach others. Will you stay a little longer and help us understand humanity further?" Ben considered her words. He had wanted to return to his daughter, to the quiet life he had always known. Yet he realized that staying a while longer could help the galaxy learn something priceless. He nodded. "I will stay," he said. "I will help in whatever way I can. But I must also return to my daughter soon. That is my responsibility as a human." Vera smiled warmly. "That is exactly why your species is remarkable. You act with integrity and love even when the stakes are high. That is why we will listen, and that is why your actions will be remembered." The days that followed were filled with quiet lessons. Ben spoke to groups of scholars, leaders, and diplomats, explaining human ways of thinking, decision-making, and care. He shared stories of his own life, of his daughter, and of the simple principles humans followed. His explanations were straightforward, honest, and relatable. Even to beings with radically different biology and culture, aliens took notes, observed his reactions, and asked questions. They debated, tried to test him, and sometimes attempted to predict his actions. But every time Ben responded truthfully and calmly. His courage and sincerity became a model that no technological advantage could replicate. As his time on the station drew to a close, Vora approached him one last time. She held the silver emblem in her hands. and her golden skin glimmered softly in the light. "You have taught us so much, Ben," she said. "Your 10 minutes changed my life. Your actions changed the council. Your honesty changed the galaxy. This emblem is a symbol of our gratitude, but it is also a promise. Humans will never be forgotten here. Your courage, care, and honesty will inspire generations." Ben smiled quietly. "I only did what humans do. We care, we act honestly, and we face challenges with courage. That is all. If the galaxy learns from that, then I am glad." Vera placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "And that is why it works. You do not seek recognition. You do not seek power. You act because it is right. That is human strength. That is what makes you extraordinary." The time came for Ben to return to Earth. He carried the emblem carefully, along with the knowledge that he had made a difference far greater than he had ever imagined. The shuttle that would take him home waited at the docking platform, engines humming softly. Before he stepped aboard, Vera spoke once more. "Next time, Ben, you do not have to pretend. The galaxy has already seen your heart. Your courage and honesty are known and respected. You are a human, and that is more than enough." Ben smiled. "I will remember that." As the shuttle lifted from the platform and moved into the star-filled expanse, Ben looked back at the station. He could see the banners, the ships, and the beings moving below. He could feel the weight of the galaxy's attention, and yet he felt calm. He had acted honestly, cared for others, and faced challenges with courage. That had been enough to change perceptions, to save a leader, and to remind the galaxy of a simple truth. Humans are remarkable. The stars stretched endlessly before him. He thought of his daughter, asleep and safe on Earth. He knew that one day she might hear the story of what her father had done. She would learn that even a small human, acting honestly and bravely, could leave a mark on the universe. Ben reflected on everything he had experienced. 10 minutes, one small human act, and the galaxy had learned something new. But more than that, he realized that the lesson was simple. Act honestly, care for others, and face challenges with courage. Those principles were human. They were powerful. As the shuttle entered the orbit above Earth, Ben looked at the blue planet below. His life would return to simplicity, to cleaning floors and caring for his daughter. Yet he carried something extraordinary with him, the knowledge that humans, in their simplicity and honesty, could teach the galaxy the true meaning of strength. The stars shone quietly, and somewhere across the galaxy, beings whispered of the 10-minute human. His story would spread, be remembered, and inspire. And in that moment, Ben realized that humans did not need fleets or weapons to be remarkable. They only needed courage, honesty, and care. And sometimes, that was more than enough to change the universe. Ben smiled softly, clutching the silver emblem. 10 minutes had changed everything, but it was the ongoing courage, care, and honesty that would carry the lesson forever.